Welcome to the TEML Integrated Management System Awareness Training. The purpose of this training is to provide every employee of Tundra Energy Marketing with a general overview of the IMS framework and an understanding of the protection programs. Tundra Energy Marketing Limited is committed to meeting all legal requirements and the ongoing development and implementation and continual improvement of the integrated management system. By completing this training and following the guidance provided, you will help us meet our commitment. At TEML, we are committed to safety, security, and environmental protection for the life cycle of our pipeline system. In support of this policy, TEML has developed the Integrated Management System, IMS. The IMS long-term goals are to achieve 0 ruptures, 0 releases, 0 injuries, 0 fatalities, and systematic and effective responses to incidents and emergency situations. Safety is the top priority at TEML. As such, all TEML employees and contractors are encouraged to report hazards, potential hazards, incidents, and near misses. Pipeline operators are required to establish, implement, and maintain a management system in accordance with regulations and standards. Specifically as it relates to TEML, requirements for the management systems are set out in both the NEB Onshore Pipeline Regulations and CSA Z662 Oil and Gas Pipeline Systems. Section 6 of the NEB Onshore Pipeline Regulations sets out extensive requirements for management systems. A brief excerpt of such requirements is provided for context. Section 6.1 of the NEB OPR requires that a company shall establish, implement, and maintain a management system that A. is systematic, explicit, comprehensive, and proactive. B. integrates the company's operational activities and technical systems with its management of human and financial resources to enable the company to meet its obligations under Section 6. C. applies to all company's activities involving the design, construction, operation, or abandonment of a pipeline, and to the programs referred to in Section 55. D. ensures coordination between the programs referred to in Section 55, and E. corresponds to the size of the company, to the scope, nature, and complexity of the activities, and to the hazards and risks associated with those activities. Not only is it a requirement to have a management system in place, it is good business. The IMS is a framework of policies, processes, and procedures used by TEML to meet its objectives and continually improve. The IMS outlines the governing processes that are used within the organization to achieve the objectives for safety, security, and the protection of the environment. The IMS links all protection programs with a common set of processes, expectations, standards, and requirements to achieve the objectives based on the corporate policy. TEML's Integrated Management System, or IMS, provides a framework for the cyclical planning, implementation, review, and adjustment of our operational activities. The IMS supports a strong culture of safety and is fundamental to keeping people safe and protecting the environment. The Integrated Management System, IMS, outlines the governing processes that are used with the organization to achieve objectives for safety, security, and protection of the environment. The IMS links all protection programs with a common set of processes, expectations, standards, and requirements to achieve objectives based on the corporate policy. The protection programs include Integrity Management Program, Damage Prevention Management Program, Health and Safety Management Program, Environmental Management Program, Emergency and Security Management Program. The IMS and the protection programs all share the same common elements. TEML's IMS continual improvement cycle is divided into 5 stages as follows. 1. Policy and commitment. 2. Planning. 3. Implementation. 4. Checking and corrective action. And 5. Management review. These 5 stages are common across all protection programs. Additional details on the 5 stages of the IMS continual improvement cycle are set out below. 1. Policy and commitment. The policy and commitment phase of the continual improvement cycle involves assigning leadership accountability and setting and communicating IMS policy. Specifically, TEML has appointed the CEO as the accountable officer with the authority over the management system. TEML has developed and implemented an IMS policy that outlines its commitment to safety, security of the public, workers, the pipeline, and the protection of property and the environment for the life cycle of the pipeline system. This policy addresses the internal reporting of hazards, potential hazards, incidents, and near misses, and is signed off by the accountable officer. 2. Planning. The planning phase of the continual improvement cycle includes the following elements: hazard identification, risk assessment, and control. Legal requirements. Goals, objectives, and targets. Organizational structure, roles, and responsibilities. Specifically, the IMS sets out processes for identifying hazards and potential hazards which result in inventory of hazards and potential hazards, referred to as the TEML Hazard and Risk Register. This is a corporate hazard and risk register to be developed with the input from each of the protection programs. The IMS sets out a process for identifying and monitoring compliance with all legal requirements and for resolving non-compliances. A Master Compliance Register, MCR, is developed and summarizes the legal requirements applicable to TEML's operation. TEML maintains this MCR internally. The IMS includes a process for developing and setting goals, objectives, and specific targets relevant to the risks and hazards associated with the company's facilities and activities. Goals in the IMS generally do not change over time. However, objectives and targets are set and reviewed on a yearly basis. The IMS includes a process for ensuring that the organizational structure enables the company to meet the requirements of the management system. This process results in an annual documented evaluation in order to demonstrate adequate human resourcing to meet these obligations. 3. Implementation. The implementation phase of a continual improvement cycle includes the following elements: operational control, normal operations; operational control, upset or abnormal operation conditions; upset or abnormal operating conditions; management of change; training, competence, and evaluation; communication; documentation and document control. Specifically, examples of this are provided below. The IMS sets out a process for developing and implementing corrective, mitigative, preventative, and protective controls associated with the hazards and risks identified in the TEML Hazard and Risk Register under both normal and abnormal operating conditions. Operational controls are developed across the programs to mitigate the risks identified in the TEML Hazard and Risk Register. An example of an operational control in normal operations includes the Pipeline Operations and Maintenance Manual, POMM. An example of the operational control in abnormal operations includes the Emergency Procedures Manual, EPM. The IMS includes a process for developing competency requirements and training programs that provides employees and other persons working with or on behalf of the company with the training that will enable them to perform their duties in a manner that is safe, ensures the security of the pipeline, and protects the environment. This is to be established through TEML's training program. The IMS includes a process for identifying and managing any change that could affect safety, security, or protection of the environment. This management of change process is supported through Intellex. 4. Checking and corrective action. The checking and corrective action phase of the continual improvement cycle includes the following elements: inspection, measurement, and monitoring; investigating and reporting incidents and near misses; internal audits; records management. Specifically, examples of this are provided below. The Quality Assurance Program will be developed to support the management system and will set out activities including inspections and audits to evaluate whether the company's processes are being adhered to. The IMS includes a process for reporting and investigating hazards, potential hazards, incidents, and near misses, and for taking corrective and preventative actions to prevent reoccurrence. Performance measures data is collected annually to evaluate the performance of the management system. 5. Management review. The final element to the management system process is for management to conduct an annual review of the management system and each protection program to ensure continual improvement. This process includes reviewing the results of the quality assurance activities and performed measures with TEML's leadership to identify opportunities for improvement. An annual management system report is developed and signed off by management at this stage. Adjustments are then made to continually improve performance in the areas of safety, security, and protection of the environment. This is an overview of the Integrity Management Program. The Canadian Standards Association regularly updates and publishes Standard Z662, which covers design, construction, operation, maintenance, deactivation, and abandonment of oil and gas pipeline systems. Within Z662, an Integrity Management Program, or an IMP, is defined as a documented program that specifies the practices used by the operating company to ensure the safe, environmentally responsible, and reliable service of a pipeline system. An Integrity Management Program is required by the various regulations and regulatory bodies that govern our pipeline system activities. The National Energy Board requires pipeline companies to develop, implement, and maintain an IMP that anticipates, prevents, manages, and mitigates conditions that could adversely affect safety or the environment during the design, construction, operation, maintenance, or abandonment of a pipeline. Canadian governing bodies, including the NEB and those in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, expect pipeline companies to adhere to the requirements specified within CSA Z662. Z662 requires pipeline companies to develop and implement a safety and loss management system encompassing a wide range of elements to provide the protection of people, the environment, and property. Z662 specifically requires operational control for pipeline system integrity management to be the form of integrity management program that addresses the life cycle of the pipeline system. To meet the requirements of CSA Z662, an IMP must include procedures to monitor for conditions that can lead to failures, to eliminate or mitigate such conditions, and to manage integrity data. The IMP must also include a description of operating commitment and responsibilities, quantifiable objectives and methods for assessing risks, identifying risk reduction, approaches and corrective actions, implementing the integrity management program, and monitoring results. The Integrity Management Program consists of an overarching governing IMP document and 12 IMP sub-programs. The sub-programs are specific to activities such as inline inspection or pipeline repair, or types of facilities such as above-ground storage tanks or pressure vessels. The IMP is written primarily for those employees with direct integrity responsibilities, and as such, TEML does not expect employees outside of the System Integrity Department to be familiar with the full content of the IMP. When specific operational procedures or guidelines are necessary, the System Integrity team will strive to ensure that the appropriate content is provided and maintained in an appropriate source. For example, although guidelines for assessing the risk of internal corrosion are found within the IMP, System Integrity personnel will ensure that the operational procedures necessary for inhibition of the pipeline are provided and maintained within the Pipeline Operations and Maintenance Manual. 1. Policy and commitment. 2. Planning. 3. Implementation. 4. Checking and corrective action. 5. Management review. This is an overview of the Environmental Management Program. As per the National Energy Board's onshore pipeline regulations, a company shall develop, implement, and maintain an environmental protection program that anticipates, prevents, manages, and mitigates conditions that could adversely affect the environment. 1. Policy and commitment. TEML has developed and implemented a Health, Safety, Security, and Environmental Policy, HSSE, that outlines the following commitments and principles. TEML is committed to responsible stewardship of the environment at our work sites and the continual improvement of our environmental performance. TEML will establish sustainable business practices that prevent pollution, minimizes impacts to the environment, and manages waste safely and responsibly. TEML will respond to and remediate environmental damage resulting from spills in a timely and responsible manner. The policy and commitment to the Environmental Management Program is signed off by the accountable officer. 2. Planning. Goals, targets, and objectives are set on a yearly basis that correspond with the Environmental Management Program, i.e. contaminated sites remediation, environmental monitoring, etc. Hazards and risks related to the environmental management are identified through environmental screenings, facility inspections, etc., and inputted into the risk register. Some hazards and risks that are directly related to this program include releases, natural disasters, species at risk, and stakeholder concerns. 3. Implementation. Within the implementation section of this protection program, identification of training and competencies are established. To meet our company objectives and regulatory requirements, online and site-specific environmental training is issued to employees and contractors. Some documentation that you may reference from the Environmental Management Program includes Environmental Pipeline Operation and Maintenance Manuals, Environmental Guidelines for Construction. 4. Checking and corrective action. Through use of audits, inspections, exercises, actual events, and performance measures, the effectiveness of the environmental management program can be evaluated and tested. 5. Management review. The final element to the management system process includes a management annual review. This is an overview of the Health and Safety Management Program. As per the NEB onshore pipeline regulations, a company shall develop, implement, and maintain a safety management program that anticipates, prevents, manages, and mitigates potentially dangerous conditions and exposure to those conditions during all activities related to construction, operation, maintenance, abandonment, and emergency situation. 1. Policy and commitment. TEML's accountable officer has executed a health, safety, security, and environmental policy outlining TEML's commitment to the health and safety of its workers, the public, and the environment. TEML is committed to a systematic and effective response to incidents. 2. Planning. Targets are set on a yearly basis regarding the total recordable injury frequency in inspections. Corrective actions are recorded and followed up on for timely completion. Preventative maintenance programs ensuring safety-related equipment is maintained according to company and manufacturer's requirements. Workplace hazardous material information systems, hazard identification, risk assessment, and control training is provided to workers. Formal hazard assessments are completed for all TEML job functions. Legal regulations and requirements will be complied with or exceeded through the continual improvement cycle of the Health and Safety Program. Ensuring hazards are risk ranked and controlled using corporate risk matrix. 3. Implementation. Through the implementation, monitoring, and continual improvement of TEML's Health and Safety Program, corporate safety standards and procedures in the Pipeline Operations and Maintenance Manual shall provide the framework for operational controls in normal and abnormal conditions. TEML will implement and maintain the management of change process. Fulfill its due diligence obligations through training competent workers and ensuring communication, both written and verbal, is documented, and documentation and document control. 4. Checking and corrective action. Internal and external audits are conducted to assess the effectiveness and compliance of the Health and Safety Program. Formal and routine inspections are completed on facilities, reporting of and investigation of incidents and all near misses in a timely manner. Accurate records ensure the program is maintained and referenced for enhancements and identifying continual improvements. 5. Management review. The final element to the management system process includes the management annual review, external reporting in HSSE, and safety management program reporting. This is an overview of the Damage Prevention Management Program. As per the NEB onshore pipeline regulations, a company shall develop, implement, and maintain a damage prevention program that anticipates, prevents, manages, and mitigates damage to its pipeline and meets the requirements set out in Section 16 of the National Energy Board Pipeline Damage Prevention Regulations, Obligations of Pipeline Companies. 1. Policy and commitment. TEML has developed and implemented a damage prevention program that outlines obligations and authorizations. Damage prevention objectives and obligations include leadership accountability and support to ensure measures and programs are established and maintained. The policy and commitment to damage prevention program is signed off by the accountable officer. 2. Planning. Goals, targets, and objectives are set on a yearly basis that correspond with the damage prevention program. During the planning stage, obligations and measures for authorization related to the damage prevention program are identified and implemented. 3. Implementation. Within the implementation section of this protection program, identification of the measures are established. TEML will develop, implement, and maintain an ongoing public awareness program. How the program is measured is by a number of face-to-face visits, mailed, contests, breakfasts, etc. TEML will be a member, actively participate, and maintain status with one call center within its geographical area. One call program, First Call in Sask, and Click Before You Dig in Manitoba, is measured by number of tickets received within the company. Company is obligated to meet NEB response time of 3 working days. TEML will ensure its obligation to locate its facilities and provide information for crossing or proximity requests to grant consent. Company is required to meet crossing obligations. TEML will fill its obligation to continually monitor and inspect the right-of-ways, pipeline and facilities, i.e. aerial patrol, depth of cover program, crossing backfill inspections, etc. TEML will identify and report when required any activity that could impair the pipeline's safety or security and any deterioration or damage caused or identified during a ground disturbance. To meet our objectives along with regulatory requirements, training is issued to employees around damage prevention, some of which is basic, others are more specialized, i.e. ground disturbance, inspection, locate training, etc. 4. Checking and corrective action. Internal and external audits are conducted to assess the damage prevention program. Performance measures are implemented and assessed to ensure the safety and integrity of the pipeline. Air patrol, pipeline markers, population density, depth of cover inspections, etc. Reporting of damage or unauthorized activity is an obligation that gets investigated. Maintaining accurate records ensures the program is maintained and referenced for enhancements. 5. Management review. The final element to the management system process includes a management annual review and internal-external reporting. Damage prevention review process. This is an overview of the Emergency and Security Management Program. Outlined from the National Energy Board's onshore pipeline regulations, a company shall develop, implement, and maintain an emergency management program that anticipates, prevents, manages, and mitigates conditions during an emergency that could adversely affect property, the environment, or the safety of workers or the public. A company shall develop, implement, and maintain a security management program that anticipates, prevents, manages, and mitigates conditions that could adversely affect people, property, or the environment. Along with being good practice, it is regulatory requirement that TEML develops, implements, and maintains an emergency management and security management program. 1. Policy and commitment. TEML has developed and implemented a health, safety, security, and environmental policy, HSSE, that outlines commitments and principles. Security and emergency response principles include: TEML will assess security risks and establish appropriate practices to manage the risks. Security and emergency response plans appropriate for the operations will be established and tested regularly so that TEML is prepared to respond to abnormal events. Communications with government agencies, emergency responders, and stakeholders will be established to identify possible areas of impact and any potential concerns addressed. The policy and commitment to the Emergency and Security Management Program is signed off by the accountable officer. 2. Planning. Targets and objectives are set on a yearly basis that correspond with the Emergency and Security Management Program. During the planning stage, hazards and risks related to emergency and security management are identified, inputted into the risk register, and assessments are completed. Some hazards and risks that are directly related to this program include releases, fires, natural disasters, theft, and unauthorized access. From the identification and assessment process, control and countermeasures are identified and contingency planning starts. 3. Implementation. Within the implementation section of this protection program, identification of the training and competencies are established. To meet our objectives along with regulatory requirements, training is issued to employees around the emergency and security management, some of which is basic, others are more specialized. Competencies around emergency and security management have been established and added to employees' learning paths. Some documentation that you may reference in regards to emergency and security management include Emergency Procedures Manual, Security Management Plan, Emergency Response Directory, Facility Emergency Response Plans, Control Point Plans. 4. Checking and corrective action. Through the use of internal and external audits along with performing exercises and attending actual events, the effectiveness of the Emergency and Security Management Program can be evaluated and tested. Other means of evaluation include submitting performance measures annually and inspecting specific response equipment. 5. Management review. The final element to the management system process includes a management annual review. This entails a review of the Emergency Management and Security Management Program, which may include internal and external reporting. If you require more information on the content provided within this presentation, please contact TEML's HSSE and Support Services Department.